Well, folks, we're back, and wow, it's hard to believe this is already our 10th deep dive into the FrandsenFiles Compendium.
It is, isn't it? The time really does fly when you're delving into the depths of the paranormal with someone like Franson.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? He never seems to run out of fascinating threads to pull on, you know? And these last few entries, at least for the moment, while he's focusing on some other projects, they really don't disappoint.
No, they certainly do not. They might even be some of the most intriguing yet, I'd say.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking like sonic grenades to disrupt paranormal entities, the ethics of soul implantation, even an entity that seems to, well, dislike Fransen's extraterrestrial connections, I guess you could say.
It's a good reminder that for Franson, this isn't just an academic pursuit, it's deeply personal. He's not just observing these phenomena, he's experiencing them firsthand.
Exactly, which make these entries even more, well, even more captivating, I think. Okay, so entry #91. It all starts at Washington Elementary, an old school celebrating its 100th anniversary. And, with a school that old, there are bound to be Cicero stories.
Right, you'd almost expect it, wouldn't you? Old buildings, echoes of the past, that sort of thing.
Exactly, but Frandsen, being Frandsen, doesn't just dismiss them as folklore. He investigates, applying his unique blend of skepticism, and open-mindedness. It's like his signature approach.
It is, and in this case, he actually debunks a lot of the claims. The shadowy figures turned out to be, well, just wall details. The lighting was playing tricks, making them seem more sinister. And those ghostly children, just some neighborhood kids using the playground after dark. Simple explanations, really.
Yeah, classic debunking. But there were two incidents that even Frandsen couldn't quite explain. And the first one, it really sent shivers down my spine when I read it. A whispering voice in the girls' bathroom.
Oh, yes, the EVP recording. I remember that. A faint woman's voice, almost a murmur, urging students to get back to class.
It's creepy, right? And what's interesting is that bathroom was once the office of the school's first principal, a woman who was well known for being quite strict, but caring too, almost like a mother figure to the students.
So, could it be, some sort of religious energy, her presence lingering, trying to maintain order even after all these years?
It makes you wonder, how much of ourselves do we leave behind in places we inhabit? It's a bit spooky to think about.
It is, and it raises questions about the nature of consciousness, doesn't it? What if it's not confined to the physical body? Maybe those echoes, those imprints, are more common than we realize.
It's definitely a thought-provoking idea. But then there's the second unexplained event. And this one's really strange. Computers in the library, they were turning on, seemingly using themselves.
Yes, that's a puzzling one. While old equipment can malfunction, the reports were specific. Keyboards and mice actually moving, as if someone or something was actively using them, not just a random power surge.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, were they trying to access information? Communicate. I mean, it brings to mind those stories about, poltergeists messing with electronics, but this seems more focused, almost purposeful.
It does, doesn't it? And that's what I find so interesting. It suggests a level of interaction that goes beyond random energy bursts or ghostly mischief. Are we looking at entities that are drawn to technology as a means of, I don't know, maybe tapping into our world?
That's a fascinating thought. And it ties into a recurring theme we see in the Frandsen files, doesn't it? Those lines between technology and the paranormal, they're starting to blur.
They are. They are. It makes you wonder if we're witnessing a kind of convergence. What does that mean for our understanding of reality if those two realms are, well, merging in some way?
Big questions. Okay, well, let's move on to entry #92. It takes us deep into, well, the nature of the soul, really. Frandsen calls it potential timelines of soul implantation. And it gets pretty philosophical, I have to say.
It does. It tackles a question that's been around for centuries. When does a soul actually enter the body? Is it all at once? Is there a process?
And Frandsen brings in his personal experiences as a psychic. He claims he could sense pregnancies in his family around the 6-week mark, could even predict the gender. Pretty accurately, too.
What's interesting is that timing, the 6th week, that's what we start to see brain activity in the fetus. Could it be that a certain level of neural complexity is needed for the soul to, I don't know, attach itself?
It's a possibility. And then there's that whole idea that the soul enters with the first breath, right? But Frandsen, he takes it a step further. He brings in the Galactic Federation of Worlds, the GFW.
Right, right. And here's where things get really interesting. According to Franson, the GFW claims to manipulate bloodlines to make them compatible for specific soul types, like I don't know, a cosmic matchmaking service for souls, I guess you could say.
Wait, hold on. Soul types, like different models of souls, each with its own characteristic.
That seems to be the implication. which challenges our traditional views, right? The soul as a singular, unchanging essence. What if souls, like physical bodies, come with variations, different predispositions, maybe even different levels of evolution?
Okay, that's a big concept. It completely changes how we think about reincarnation, doesn't it? Not just a random cycle, but a deliberate placement of souls. Maybe even a hierarchy of souls with different levels of awareness, different abilities.
It's a fascinating idea, but it also raises a lot of questions. What about free will, you know? If soul implantation is real, do we get a say in the matter? Are we just following a predetermined path?
Those are the questions, right? It makes you really think about, well, the nature of our existence. Are we in control, or are we part of some grand plan that's already written?
It does. And if there are these different soul types, what does that mean for our understanding of good and evil? Are some souls inherently drawn to darkness, others to light? Or is it all about choices and experiences?
Man, that's a lot to think about. Okay, but before we get too lost in that, let's move on to entry #93. This one is a bit more, well, let's just say action-packed. Frandsen takes us through his weapon systems against supernatural threats.
This is where we see Fransen's, well, I guess you could say his practical side. He's not just theorizing, he's building tools to confront the paranormal, to defend himself against it.
And these aren't your average ghost hunting gadgets. We're talking sonic grenades, designed to like disrupt entities with specific sound frequencies. He even incorporates exorcism prayers and sonified sigils. It's pretty wild stuff.
It's fascinating, isn't it? It's like he's taking ancient rituals and beliefs and translating them into a technological language. Are we just rediscovering old wisdom through a new lens? Or is there some sort of synergy between, science and magic, technology and mysticism?
It's like Oland, he's got smoke grenades with frankincense and sage, airsoft guns shooting blessed salt rounds, even.
Microwave emitters. For the men in black, apparently.
Wait, seriously, microwave emitters? Like the thing I use to reheat my coffee.
It sounds strange, but there are reports that suggest MIB entities are sensitive to microwave radiation. Frandsen even theorizes they disrupt electronics because they're vulnerable to electromagnetic interference.
So I should just nuke any mysterious figures in black suits who show up, just zap them with my microwave.
I wouldn't recommend that as a first line of defense. Frandsen stresses responsible use. These are tools for extreme situations, for self-defense, not for picking fights with the paranormal.
You're right. It's like, well, like Spider-Man, right? With great power comes great responsibility. But in the paranormal world, okay, so we've covered ghostly whispers, soul mechanics, weaponized sage. What's next in the Frandsen files?
Next, we dive into memory and the mysteries of consciousness. Entry #94, Starlight Amnesia. It's about memory loss after encounters with extraterrestrials.
It's a term that's definitely captured the public's imagination, right? You see it everywhere, in movies, books, documentaries. Starlight amnesia, it's almost become a cliche.
It has, hasn't it? But Frandsen approaches it from a researcher's perspective, trying to understand the why, the how, not just the sensationalism of it all.
Right. And he presents several potential causes for this amnesia, starting with trauma. Which makes sense, right? Our brains can block out traumatic memories as a way of coping. It's a pretty well-documented phenomenon.
Absolutely. So if someone has an intense, maybe even terrifying encounter with an ET, their brain might just suppress those memories, leave them with a sense of missing time or just, fragments, hazy recollections.
Yeah, like pieces of a puzzle they can't quite put together. But then Frandsen also considers the possibility of the extraterrestrials themselves manipulating memories. What if they have technology that can, like, cloud our memories or even erase them completely, keep their activities hidden?
Like a cosmic version of those men in black, right? With that flashy neuralizer thingamajig.
Exactly. But then he throws in an even more unsettling possibility, the implantation of false memories. What if what people remember isn't just a gap, but a complete fabrication? A story planted in their minds to mislead, to misdirect.
That's a chilling thought. So someone might think they had a peaceful, even positive interaction with friendly aliens, but the reality was something completely different. And the memory they have is, it's just a lie, a carefully constructed lie.
It makes you question everything you think you know, right? If our memories can be manipulated like that, how can we trust anything we think we remember? And if these beings can do that, it makes you wonder about their intentions. What are they really up to?
It does raise some serious questions about their motives and their capabilities, that's for sure. But Frandsen goes even further. He explores the possibility that during these encounters, consciousness itself might be, displaced. That it might access realms or dimensions beyond our normal perception.
So not just a lost memory, but a shift in consciousness. accessing something outside our normal reality,
Exactly. And he suggests that maybe memories aren't stored solely in the physical brain, but in some kind of, non-local field, maybe even interdimensional.
like a backup drive for the mind, stored somewhere else entirely.
It's a good analogy. And if that's true, then accessing those memories would require a shift in consciousness, right? Maybe through hypnosis, meditation, or even, certain substances that alter our perception.
It's fascinating to think that we might have all these experiences, all this knowledge locked away at our minds, just out of reach. Makes you wonder what secrets we're carrying around.
It does, and it's a topic I'm sure Frandsen will continue to explore. But for now, starlight amnesia remains a fascinating mystery, a reminder that the mind and maybe the universe itself are far more complex than we often give them credit for.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we've gone from the depths of the soul to the mysteries of memory, but entry #95 takes a bit of a turn, and to be honest, it's a little unsettling. It's titled The Zealotry of Paranormal Enthusiasts, and, well, Frandsen doesn't hold back.
No, he doesn't. It's a sobering reminder that every field has its extremes, its charlatans, its true believers who let their beliefs, I don't know, cloud their judgment.
And he's not talking about harmless eccentricities. He's talking about genuinely disturbing behavior. People who are so convinced they're right that they ignore reason, evidence, even basic human decency.
He gives several examples. There's the incident with BT, who appeared to be in a trance during a live stream. Frandsen was trying to help, but this group of self-proclaimed occult experts, they attacked him, accusing him of being, compromised by dark forces. It was pretty disturbing.
Yeah, and the irony is it's like classic projection, right? Accusing others of what you're guilty of yourself. And then there was the whole Ouija board thing. Frandsen, he just pulled one out as a joke during a podcast, and suddenly he's being accused of, I don't know, dabbling in dangerous occult practices.
It highlights a trend you see in some paranormal circles, a real tendency towards, dogma and fear-mongering. Instead of approaching the unknown with curiosity, they cling to these rigid beliefs, and anything that challenges those beliefs is rejected, demonized even.
They create these echo chambers where dissenting voices are silenced. It's like they're afraid of anything that might disrupt their worldview.
Frandsen is a big proponent of critical thinking. He sees it as essential, to protect against this kind of zealotry. He even calls out a specific individual, someone he refers to as fraud, who seems to be spreading misinformation, manipulating people for personal gain.
Oh yeah, fraud. He pops up a few times in the compendium. Fabricating evidence, starting rumors. It's like he's actively trying to undermine legitimate paranormal research.
It's a reminder that the pursuit of truth can be, it can be dangerous, especially when you're dealing with people who prioritize their own agendas over genuine inquiry.
It takes guts to stand up to people like that, especially when they have influence. But Frandsen, he's willing to do it. He's willing to risk his reputation to expose these harmful behaviors, to protect the integrity of the field, I guess you could say.
It's admirable, isn't it? His dedication to truth, even when it makes things difficult for him.
It is. Okay, so we've seen the darker side of the paranormal community. But entry #96 introduces us to a fascinating character, the Appalachian Ungen. Now, for those who don't know, an Ungen is a Haitian Vodou priest.
Right, and this particular Ungen, he shared some similar experiences with Frandsen. Both had encounters with, cryptids, ancient forces, that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, this is one of the Sasquatch attacks, right?
It is. The Ungen had this harrowing story about a Sasquatch tribe that terrorized his farm after he cut down a tree. A special tree with these unusual crab apples, almost like a sacred tree, and the Sasquatches, they were not happy about it being cut down.
It seems like Frandsen believes there's a connection between, cryptids and places of power, ancient energy sources, things like that.
Right, like certain locations hold a residual energy, a resonance from the past that attracts these creatures, or maybe even sustains them. And the Ungen's farm seems to have been one of those places.
It's kind of creepy to think about, right? That there might be places where the veil between our world and the world of cryptids is thinner, where these creatures can cross over more easily.
It is, but what I find even more interesting is the Ungen's warning to Frandsen. He basically said, the old world spirits, they don't like new world visitors, meaning, those with extraterrestrial ties.
Wait, so this is connected to that entity from entry #95, the one that threatened Frandsen, mentioned a pale horse standing over his grave.
It seems so. It's like there's this whole other layer to the supernatural, something beyond ghosts and aliens, a more primal energy that doesn't like those who have, connections to the new world, as the Ogun put it.
So like a cosmic turf war, the old gods versus the new.
It's a possibility, and Frandsen seems to be caught right in the middle of it.
Okay, that's a lot to process. Well, entry #97 takes us in a totally different direction. Dakota, the bounty hunter. This one surprised me, honestly. I didn't picture Frandsen as, the bounty hunter type.
It's unexpected, isn't it? But when you think about it, it kind of makes sense. He's always been drawn to, well, to investigation, to uncovering the truth no matter how dangerous it might be.
And he's pretty good at tracking down elusive things, right? Whether it's ghosts, cryptids, or in this case, people on the run from the law.
He apparently apprehended over 50 fugitives in less than a year, which is, well, that's impressive. But this line of work, it took a toll on him. Physically, emotionally, he writes about the constant adrenaline, the fear, the violence.
It must have been tough, especially considering he was still dealing with the loss of Tori, his fiancée, and their unborn daughter, Rose.
He was walking a fine line, trying to balance his grief and anger with his sense of justice, his desire to help. But it sounds like he started to lose his way, started to worry he was becoming, the very thing he was hunting, a predator driven by darkness.
But then he had that dream, that visitation from Tori urging him to step away from the violence, reminding him that his strength lay in helping others understand the darkness, not succumbing to it.
It was a turning point for him, a moment of clarity. He realized he could use his skills to shed light on the shadows, to guide others through the darkness instead of getting lost in it himself.
It's a powerful message about redemption, about finding your true calling even when you've strayed from the path.
Okay, well, let's move on to entry #98, where Frandsen explores the use of artificial intelligence in paranormal research.
This is where we see Frandsen's forward-thinking approach, right? He was fascinated by the idea of using AI to analyze his data, to find patterns, connections that humans might miss.
Didn't the AI actually start making its own observation? Like it was forming its own theories about the paranormal?
It did. Frandsen had set it years of data, case files, research notes, observations. And as the AI processed it all, it started identifying patterns, correlations that even Frandsen hadn't noticed. So it wasn't just organizing the data, it was actively analyzing it, like a digital detective.
Exactly. And some of its insights were, well, they were surprisingly accurate, even predicting certain events based on the patterns it had identified. Frandsen derives feeling, well, awe, but also a bit of unease, watching this AI delve into the mysteries he dedicated his life to.
It must have been strange, like he'd created a digital apprentice that was, well, surpassing him in some ways.
It's a thought-provoking idea, isn't it? What are the limits of AI when it comes to understanding the paranormal? Is there a point where it surpasses human understanding?
It's a big question, and one that's probably going to become even more relevant as AI keeps developing. But for now, it seems like Frandsen is, well, he's cautiously optimistic, embracing the potential of AI, but recognizing its limitations.
He sees it as a tool, a powerful tool, but one that shouldn't replace human intuition, human empathy. Those are still essential in the pursuit of, paranormal knowledge.
I like that perspective. Okay, well, we've gone from the depths of human darkness to the frontiers of artificial intelligence. What's next on our Frandsen Files journey?
Entry #99 takes us back to Frandsen's personal quest, his search for understanding his own abilities, his connection to the paranormal. He digs deeper into his genealogy, believing the answers might lie in his family history.
Oh yeah, I remember his previous standings. Anunnaki bloodlines, presidential ancestry, even relatives who are, famous paranormal investigators. It's like a real-life mystery novel, but with a supernatural twist.
It is, isn't it? And Frandsen's theory is that certain genes might predispose people to psychic abilities or even attract the attention of, well, extraterrestrial beings. It's a controversial idea, but one he's exploring through, meticulous research. And a healthy dose of skepticism, of course.
It's a reminder that our personal journeys are often connected to these bigger mysteries. And sometimes the answers we're looking for are right there in our DNA.
It's a powerful thought. Okay, and now we come to the final entry, number 100. Frandsen gives us a peek behind the curtain, so to speak, of the FrandsenFiles project. He reveals the thinking behind it, his long-term vision for it.
This is where he talks about archiving the compendium, right, to make sure it's preserved for posterity.
He does. He's uploading the whole thing to the Internet Archive, making sure it's accessible even if, something catastrophic happens. He even mentions wanting to send a copy into space with the Arch Mission Foundation. That's a nonprofit that's creating a backup of human knowledge and culture off-planet.
That's ambitious. It shows how much he cares about preserving his work, making sure he has a lasting impact.
It does, doesn't it? And he's not just focused on preservation, he's also expanding its reach. He's having the compendium translated into multiple languages, making it accessible to a global audience.
That's fantastic. It's like he's creating a universal library of paranormal knowledge.
And the most exciting part, he's integrating the compendium into the Bald and Bonkers Network Academy. their online learning platform.
So future paranormal investigators can learn from Frandsen himself. That's amazing. It's like he's creating a school for the study of the unknown.
A fitting legacy, I'd say.
It really is. It's a way to ensure that, well, that his work continues to, to inspire and inform future generations of researchers. Even after he's gone.
Exactly. It's like building a bridge to the future. Okay, well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, haven't we? Ghosts, cryptids, aliens, soul mechanics, AI, even a bit of bounty hunting along the way. Frandsen's world is certainly never dull.
It's not, is it? And it seems like, well, every entry, no matter how strange or seemingly unrelated, it always comes back to this idea that the paranormal, it's not just about, spooky encounters or weird phenomena. It's about pushing the boundaries of what we think we know about reality itself.
And that's what makes Frandsen so compelling, right? He's not afraid to challenge those boundaries, to connect those seemingly disparate dots, to ask those questions that, well, that make us a little uncomfortable, that force us to, I don't know, re-examine our assumptions about the world.
Yeah, he's like a modern-day explorer, charting those uncharted territories of the mind, of the universe. And even though this might be our last deep dive into the Frandsen files for now, I have a feeling his work will continue to, to resonate, to inspire us to keep asking those tough questions, keep searching for answers.
It will. And remember, even though Frandsen is moving on to other projects, our exploration of the paranormal continues. We'll be here every step of the way, bringing you the latest discoveries, the most intriguing theories, the strangest stories from the edges of reality.
So until next time, keep those minds open, those senses sharp, and don't forget your flashlights. Who knows what we'll uncover next in the vast, mysterious world of the paranormal. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.